One of the most successful marketing campaigns held over the past 23 years or so was led by Staples Business Depot. And their advertisements focused on a little gadget that they called the easy button. In some of their advertisements, they showed pictures of a man in his office, just his desk was cluttered with all kinds of papers and to-do lists and things stuck on the board and post-it notes everywhere, and call this person when you have a chance, and he was just overwhelmed with all kinds of stuff and all kinds of calamity on his desk. But just with one press of that easy button, all of a sudden everything was organized. On a whiteboard, in files, on the electronic organizer, his life was so much more simple, so much more pleasant. Then we go to another scene of a woman in her dining room with tons of clothes needing to be folded, her kids running around like crazy, doing all kinds of things because they're unoccupied. And again, the mother just presses that easy button, and flash, in a moment we see everything is piled up and nice in folders or hampers from Rubbermaid, and their kids are sitting down at the table organized with their crafts and supplies, of course, given to them by Business Depot, and everything seems to be perfect and fine. Well, in a similar way, we see the apostles today. Their lives were kind of in a calamity. They were dazed and confused because they had seen Jesus put to death. They saw him executed, put in the grave, and his grave was locked away and guarded by Roman soldiers. They had seen incidents of Jesus appearing to them arisen, but they were so confused and so unaware of what was happening, they were still disillusioned as to how they were to live their lives from this point forward. They had believed and put their whole lives in the fact that Jesus was the Messiah to come and save Israel from their occupation from the Romans. But now Jesus was not with them. How were they to spend their lives? And so we see them dazed, confused, kind of in an uproar, not knowing which way to go in their lives. But we see in a way Peter speaking out for the apostles, almost like wanting to press that easy button saying, I'm going fishing. It seems as though these are very simple, nonchalant words, I'm going fishing. But Peter wasn't just going to not drop his pole in the lake again to just do some casual fishing. By Peter saying, I'm going fishing, he declared to the other apostles, I'm going to go back to my former way of life and resume the life that I know so well, the life I grew up with, the life of fishing, for a livelihood to feed my family. And the apostles say, we will go with you. But although Peter was going back to his old ways of life, taking up that career of fishing again, after he had spent these past 3 years following Jesus and being ministers for Jesus, we see Jesus enters the scene. It's very coincidental, maybe not, that Jesus appeared to those apostles almost at the very same place on the Sea of Galilee where Jesus first invited Peter to become a fisher of people, to lower his net, to bring all people to be with Jesus. So Jesus didn't hold their sins against them, didn't say, where were you guys when I needed you and you all abandoned me? But Jesus says simply, come and have breakfast. And he gives them that brand new commission that they are to draw all people to himself and be his hands, his feet, to bring his message to the world. As we reflect here in 2025, we are given that same message of Jesus to be his fishers of people for him, to draw all people to himself. We are called, especially as a family of Parishes, to focus on our vision statement that says we are to be disciple-making disciples of others, that should be at the very core, the center of who we are as Christians, as disciple-making disciples. And so how can we do that? There are 3 tools that we can have in our tool belt, so to speak, that help us to make that journey of making disciples of others that we meet along the way. The first of these 3 components that we can keep in our tool belt is that of prayer. Every single one of us should be spending some time every day to pray, especially praying with scriptures. And now on our cell phones, on our laptops, on our tablets, we have all kinds of access to the scriptures every day. We can simply set aside 10 minutes, 15 minutes to read a passage of scripture and ask, Lord, what are you saying to me today? How am I to use your word to share this with others and bring the light of life that you have given to me to the lives of others? So that's the first tool that we can have in our tool belt, is that of prayer. Secondly, we're important to have community in our lives. We see those apostles all together after the death of Jesus to give each other strength, to give each other inspiration. And so what we are doing here this Sunday morning and every Sunday should give us strength to keep faithful in following the Lord. Pope Francis, young in his pontificate as our Pope, he spoke to a gathering of young people in Rome and said to them these words of the importance of community. He said, "Like the disciples, you can experience moments of life that put us to the test and make us feel naked, helpless, and alone. In those times of uncertainty, you must not keep to yourselves, because fears must be expressed in order to drive them away. If I keep it only for myself, if I don't talk about it with anyone, it doesn't work. In times of crisis, you have to talk with a friend who can listen and help. Crises must be brought into the light in order to overcome them." So we are to support one another on our way of being disciples, helping each other to be disciple-making disciples of others. So prayer and community are two tools that we can keep in our tool belt. The third is also important, that of reconciliation. We see Peter being very ashamed of what he did, denying that he even knew that Jesus, who he was, that he was a follower of Jesus. But he was able to come to Jesus face to face and hear Jesus not give him any kind of a put down because of his lack of faith, but that Jesus welcomed him and gave him that new commission to bring the good news to others. When we come to reconciliation, we come to Jesus face to face ourselves. We hear Jesus giving us those words, "I forgive you, I love you, go and sin no more." So we receive the very grace of Jesus giving his very self to us to give us new strength to continue that mission of being disciple-making disciples to others. So as we reflect on this journey that Jesus gives to us of how to live out our discipleship, let us realize that we are all on a common path, that we are people of prayer, people of community, people of reconciliation with others, and that we pledge to follow Jesus with all of our hearts, being people who truly feed his sheep with love, guided by our prayer.